On March 25, 1978, hundreds of protesters gathered at Laddystone Park in Hagåtña for what would become Guam's largest protest rally at the time. Joining the demonstration was a diverse group of people, including CHamoru and white American educators, Filipinos, Koreans, government officials, a religious leader, and perhaps the most significant of all were more than 100 manumku. With Para PDN as their slogan, the demonstration was aimed at the popular newspaper Pacific Daily News and its English language only policy, Guahusi Pulan, and let us delve into the CHamoru language protest rally of 1978, exploring the goals and significance of Para, the People's Alliance for Responsive Alternatives, the language advocacy group that organized the demonstration. The acronym Para has a double meaning, as the word Para, depending on how you pronounced it, can mean two different things in CHamoru. By pronouncing the word as para, which means for in CHamoru, it would indicate Para's support for the CHamoru language. If you pronounce it as para, which meant stop in CHamoru, this indicated Para's goal of stopping the PDN's only English language policy. Hence the slogan Para PDN, Stop PDN. The goal of Para was to urge the PDN to change its English language only policy. Para was established by CHamorus born throughout the 1930s through 1950s, with the majority of members belonging to the immediate post-World War II generation, commonly known as the baby boomer generation. This CHamoru cohort bore witness to swift socio-economic transformations on Guam as the island transitioned from a subsistence agricultural-based society to a cash economy. At home, most of them were primarily exposed to CHamoru, but in schools and society at large, English was emphasized over CHamoru because English was associated with progress and modernization, making the vast majority of them bilingual in CHamoru and English. However, they were the last generation where a substantial majority possessed fluency in the CHamoru language, as subsequent generations experienced a steep decline in CHamoru language proficiency. Furthermore, many of them attained higher education, earning college degrees in the continental United States. The political consciousness of these young CHamorus was raised from witnessing several influential social and political movements, often grassroots-based, including the Vietnam anti-war movement, the Chicano movement, the indigenous rights movement, global decolonization, the American civil rights movement, and so on. They saw firsthand how grassroots movements led to significant societal changes in the United States. Moreover, they observed the profound social, cultural, and demographic shifts taking place on Guam and its effect on CHamoru culture and language due to rapid modernization, immigration, and the cultural and political influence of the United States. All of these collective experiences contributed to these CHamorus becoming more vocal and assertive regarding CHamoru cultural and language issues in which they believed needed to be revived and maintained amidst the intense changes in their homeland. Armed with their generational experiences, these predominantly young and highly educated bilingual CHamoru activists formed Para in response to PDN's refusal to publish CHamoru advertisements and notices without English translations. It began when Lorraine Aguilar, then wife of educator and future Congressman Robert Underwood, wanted to have a birthday ad for him in Spanish. However, PDN refused the ad. She then tried to place the ad in CHamoru, surely thinking that the indigenous language of the island would be accepted. To her shock, the PDN once again refused the ad because it violated their English-only language policy. The PDN policy required that any advertisements or notices that are not in English must be accompanied by an English translation. Finding it egregiously wrong that PDN refused to publish the ad in CHamoru without an English translation, despite CHamoru being the indigenous language of Guam, Robert Underwood, along with other CHamoru language advocates such as Anthony Tony Leon Guerrero, Clotilde Ding Good, Lolita Huxell, Bernadita Dunca, Hope Cristobal, Rosa Palomo, among many others, turned the already brewing anger towards the PDN English language policy into action. As a result, the group PARA was formed. Tensions were inflamed between the language community and the PDN when in early March of 1978, educators from the CHamoru Bilingual Bicultural Education Program tried to place announcements in CHamoru in the PDN observation posts, but were denied. Only their announcements in English were accepted for publication. This caused much frustration among the CHamoru bilingual bicultural teaching community. For example, upon hearing this, CHamoru educator Rosa Palomo angrily wrote a letter at work using her governmental letterhead to PDN publisher Robert Udick. She criticized the PDN's English language policy, explaining how could they deny the publication of the CHamoru language in our own homeland. Palomo received a reply which only showed PDN's insensitivity to the issue. The PDN criticized her letter for being written on a governmental agency letterhead instead of the substance of her letter. Already experiencing enough agitation with the PDN's only English language policy, PARA members wanted to show the PDN just how unpopular their policy was through a planned protest rally to be held at 10 a.m. on March 25, 1978. PARA's protest rally plan was to gather at the Laddystone Park in Hagåtña, then march around the cathedral towards the PDN building. At the end of the march, they would congregate across the PDN building at Our Lady of Academy lawn, distributing forms to cancel their PDN subscriptions. In preparation for the demonstration, donations were sought after to fund the printing of PDN cancellation, subscription notices, flyers, and radio advertisements. According to organizer Ding Good, about $275 were collected, which is equal to roughly $1,300 in 2023. PARA members embarked on a village-by-village campaign, spreading the word of the protests in shopping areas, banks, and senior citizen centers. The organizers expected a turnout of 75 individuals at the rally. During the morning of the protest rally, a massive crowd gathered at Laddystone Park in Hagåtña. The rally organizers must have been shocked at the size of the crowd. The PDN estimated somewhere between 300 to 400 people, while some PARA members recalled that the crowd size was anywhere from a low of 400 to a high of 800. PARA spokesman Robert Underwood, aided by a loudspeaker attached to a top of a Volkswagen, led off the morning rally with a speech in CHamoru and English asking PDN for free access to all languages common on the island, especially CHamoru, which has endured the most oppression in its advertisements and the observation posts. We have no personal grudge to pursue, no partisan political ideas to follow, no other purpose than to let PDN know that the island will not tolerate insensitive and unresponsive media. Monsignor Oscar Calvo, a well-respected religious figure and advocate for the CHamoru language, also delivered a brief speech in solidarity with the march against language oppression. Calvo urged the crowd to persist in their struggle to perpetuate the CHamoru language and warned that this demonstration was just the beginning. Marching to the chants of Para PDN, the protesters marched from Laddystone Park, passing the police station, going around the cathedral to the PDN building, singing religious hymns and the CHamoru anthem. Several protesters held signs in CHamoru, English, and even one in Japanese, expressing their dissatisfaction with the PDN. One uncle held a sign which stated, "Radio stations use CHamoru. Why not PDN?" The Japanese sign read, "Don't ignore the presence of the CHamoru language." One particularly renowned CHamoru sign, which used an Antigu CHamoru word, read, "PDN, mapos esta unatenosu," which meant, "PDN, you have already shook me enough." After about 20 minutes since the start, the demonstrators arrived in front of the PDN building where protesters congregated on the Academy of Our Lady lawn across the PDN building. As planned, PARA members distributed PDN cancellation forms to dozens of protesters. One by one, protesters crossed the street to enter the PDN building to turn in their cancellation form, with the crowd loudly cheering them on with huge rounds of applause, shouting, "Para PDN!" It was at this time that the most symbolic act of dissatisfaction with the PDN occurred, when a PDN newspaper was lit on fire. PARA leaders invited Udik to speak to them, however, he declined. Shortly after the protest rally, Udik released a statement. In recognition of the tremendous spirit and pride shown by the group Saturday, the Pacific Daily News has reviewed its policy on observation post notices and will in the future accept notices in CHamoru. Today's demonstration by the PARA PDN group was perhaps one of the finest examples of democracy in action. It was a major victory for PARA and the CHamoru language supporters. The PDN changed the language policy. Furthermore, it led to the development of a CHamoru language section in the newspaper. The result was Finu CHamoru, a short daily language lesson, and the original CHamoru comic strip Juan Malamanga, created by Clotilde Good. The CHamoru language protest rally of 1978 stands as a testament to the power of collective action and the determination of a community to protect its language and cultural heritage. Through their advocacy and unwavering commitment, these relatively young CHamoru members of PARA, such as Robert Underwood and Bernadita Dunca, defined themselves as leaders of the CHamoru movement and paved the way for future generations to continue the fight for CHamoru rights, ensuring that the language and identity of the CHamoru people remain vibrant and respected. PARA would continue to champion CHamoru language issues, taking up the cause of urging the Guam Airport Authority to include CHamoru on their signage during the planning phase of the new Guam Airport, leading to the moniker PARA Airport, Stop the Airport. Robert Underwood, along with a few other PARA members, invaded the airport board meeting and requested for CHamoru signage at the new facility. The board members agreed. As a result, the Guam Airport stands out as the sole government building that consistently puts their signs in CHamoru since the very beginning. However, a new issue was arising, an issue that PARA members feared could potentially lock Guam in its unincorporated territorial political status quo, thereby limiting Guam's future political status options and thus the rights of self-determination. This story would be covered in a future video. If you liked and enjoyed the video, consider supporting me on Patreon so I can continue to produce more Pacific Studies content. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications, follow me on social media at PulanSpeaks, and a special Seduce Masi to Patreon supporters Puti'on, Pim Limtiaco, and Sablan. Seduce Masi for watching Guahusi Pulan and Pulan has spoken. Esta.